Hey guys, Darren Asbury here with Revital Outdoors. Thanks again for tuning into this podcast. We've had a lot of success with these podcasts happening. Real quick, if you're liking all the content you're seeing on our YouTube channel, you're liking these podcasts, be sure that you subscribe to our channel. This gives you the notifications when all of our newest podcasts hit, all of our newest content. And go ahead and like this video too. I think you're really going to like this podcast. We're very excited to welcome Brian Spicer with No Limits Hunting to our podcast today. He's been with No Limits Hunting for the last 8 years. You see him on there as a host. Very excited to have him on here today, as well as the CEO of the company, Kyle Smith. He's jumping in there today. So without further ado, Kyle Smith and Brian Spicer with No Limits Hunting. Gentlemen, how you doing today?
Good morning.
Awesome. Good morning.
Okay, so well, Brian, it's really great to finally catch you in an off time from all your hunting. I know you've been doing a lot of hunting lately, so kind of walk us through, without giving away too much, what you've been up to and where you've been. And you've been traveling a lot, man.
We have, yeah. Obviously, it's mid-December, peak of the rut, so we're chasing that all over Texas. We've been to Spain a couple weeks ago, and now, like I said, we're really cranking up on the whitetail side. So we started with elk earlier in the season, and we're chasing the animals, we're chasing the seasons. It just depends on what's in season, hopefully what's in rut. But yeah, we've mixed in some international travel in spite of COVID. That was an interesting story to say the least. But yeah, we're just running and gunning right now, trying to get all of our footage so that we can go live next July on Sportsman Channel.
That's awesome.
Okay. Fantastic. And I did see that bull that you harvested this year on your Instagram. Unbelievable harvest. What do you think that's going to score?
Well, we had there was a gentleman that hunts with us, Adam Lowry. He shot one bull that went over 400, and then my wife shot a gorgeous 6x6 that scored 406 as well. The mass on him was huge. He had 16-inch bases, and both of them were shot with their bows. So just a phenomenal hunt. I've already previewed the footage, started to catalog it, get it off to the editors, and it is absolutely phenomenal. I mean, we got up close and personal, a lot of spot and stalk hunting. Lexus shot hers at 18 yards. And then Adam, without giving too much away, he had to tuck into a ground blind over a water hole because it got hot that day. And the animals came right in the water hole, and he smoked them at 40 yards. So
nice. What ranch is that? Remind me again what ranch y'all are hunting on?
It's a Squaw Mountain Ranch up in Jacksboro, Texas.
Is that North Texas or South Texas?
It is. Yeah, it's Jacksboro's call it an hour and a half northwest of the Metroplex. So if you fly into DFW in under 2 hours, you're on the property. And it's just go ahead, I'm sorry.
Do they offer like package hunts and whatnot, or
Absolutely. Yeah, they specialize in elk, red stag, whitetails, and then they've got the full range of exotics as well. And the thing that I like hunting about hunting there is the topography of the ranch is like nothing that you see in Texas. It's got a lot of undulation, a lot of draws, deep canyons. It's a real hunt. It's not kick and shoot, quote unquote. You've got to get out there, put the miles on your boots. There's been times where I've almost quit on the side of the mountain there, where I haven't done that in New Zealand or Spain or what have you, just because it's so rocky and rough. It is really a great place to go out and hunt.
Awesome. I'm familiar with hunting the hill country and then South Texas and the brush country, but nothing, these are easy hills to hike.
Yeah, it's a special place for sure. We've been going out there. We've had a relationship with them for the last 10 to 12 years, and it's a staple for us to go back. We're actually going to take all the families out for New Year's Eve. They're basically closing down the ranch for us so that we can go out and entertain our kids, hopefully get a couple first deer. Things like that. So we've got a real special relationship with those guys.
That's awesome. And you've already harvested some world-class whitetail this season too, right?
Yeah. We have. We've shot 4 over 200 this year. So
good gosh.
Wow.
Yeah, and we're going back out on the 26th. So in a couple days, we had already hunted for 5 days in the peak of the rut, and we got basically no footage. We've got does and young deer, but no mature bucks. So Matt, one of our camera guys, he's behind the gun for this hunt, and we've got to go back out and see if we can't make it happen. We hit the rut just perfectly, but maybe a day or two behind because the big bucks got locked up with does and they weren't chasing anymore. They had them pinned down in the brush. and we weren't seeing any mature deer.
Whenever you time the lockdown, that's tough.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we typically always somehow hit lockdown whenever we do our Wisconsin bow hunt up there. And then for about 48 to 72 hours, you would swear there's not hardly a deer on the property besides yearlings.
And that's exactly what we experienced. We had gotten there the first morning, it was 40 degrees, and we're sitting there in camp having a cup of coffee before we go out. And we're like, all right, this is going to be great, right? There's going to be deer everywhere as soon as day breaks. And there was absolutely nothing. And then, it's heated back up. When we go there on this Sunday, it's going to be 85 degrees. So I'm hoping that they've gotten through the process and they'll start to move and, go to feed and water. But it's going to be tough, to say the least.
So in the first round of lockdown, I mean, every buck's invited to the party, right? So
Absolutely.
like all the bucks, all the does, they're hemmed up. They've kicked the yearlings off. The yearlings are still hitting feed and water, but that's about all you're going to see. And then, but there's something magical after they come out of that first round, because now it's competition time. That's when you
Absolutely.
really start seeing them lock antlers and all the traditional rut activity that people are familiar with. So hopefully you get to see some of that whenever you go back.
I hope so. Yeah, we while we were in camp, there was another hunter that was successful on a big deer, and the only reason I believe that he shot him is he had been gored by another deer.
Okay,
When we had him back at the skinning shed, we were cleaning him, and he was 5.5-year-old deer. He looked like a 2.5-year-old deer as far as his neck and his body, just his conditioning. And like I said, when we were cleaning him out, it almost looked like the guy had gut shot him, but it was actually just a stab wound from another set of horns on obviously a bigger deer that just cleaned his clock and sent him on his way. So they're fighting. I mean, we did hear some lockups when we were there, but hopefully going back 10 days later, like I said, they're through the process and we can get find these deer up on their feet.
awesome. Sounds fantastic. What's their main like because hunting brush country and hill country, um I'm sure it's a lot different. What's the kind of the forage there? What are they feeding on up there?
A lot of so where we're going on this hunt, we're actually going to Freer down in South Texas. So it's that standard, see those white antlers moving through the brush,
Okay,
and down there they're going to water more than anything else. There's not a whole lot of natural feed. Obviously, they've got some food plots that have been put in. We're throwing a lot of orange corn down there, which is a great product that we use. And I mean, that's really what they're surviving on. There's some natural browsing things that, of course, but water is the big key down there. That the ranch that we hunt at has put miles upon miles of pipe in to put water troughs out for these deer so that they don't have to leave the property.
gotcha. Awesome. So I know you went to Spain. I would
Correct.
love to hear about. I've been dying to ask you about this trip. So the whole you mind just starting at the top from even the whole process of with COVID and going and
Sure.
traveling and all of that stuff. So
Absolutely. Yeah, it was a trip that we'd actually booked 3 years ago. And then obviously COVID rolls in and they cancel the flight. So you get excited to go. COVID does its thing. Flights are canceled. Okay, what are we doing with deposits? What are we doing with scheduling? Obviously, hosting a show, footage is key. You can't host a show with no hunting footage. So we kept rolling the trip and finally got to get it, put together in November. And the process was a little more complicated than I'm used to going international. We've been hunting internationally for the last, 10 plus years. No Limits hunting the first 4 seasons was almost all of Africa and New Zealand. I mean, we did very little stateside. So we're used to that international travel, but with the COVID protocols, we had to obviously get our shots. We had to have the documentation. We had to upload that documentation to a portal in Spain. They verified that everything was good, gave us a QR code. We get to the airport. We have to check in. Obviously, we have to present that QR code. We have to actually present the vaccination certificate, not a copy or a picture of it, the actual card itself. And if you don't have those things, you don't get on the plane. So then, you get on the plane, and I'm used to you get on the plane, you kick back, you relax. I mean, it was legit. Don't take your mask off. They put a tray of food down in front of us, and I took my mask off, and the flight attendant came running back. you have to have your mask on. I'm like, I have food right here. How am I going to eat like through the mask? You know, it actually frustrated me. But long story short, we got there and we're clearing customs on the other side and health checks, what have you. And I get pulled out of line because now they want to verify that I have my vaccination card. And it was crazy, you know, but we finally got there, got cleared. And once we got there, we had a tremendous experience. You know, we knew that the hunt was going to be hard. I didn't know it was going to be as hard as it was. You know, we had started working out, start getting back in shape. We knew we were going to be in some, you know, pretty rough country. And luckily we put the work in so that it wasn't so severe. But we were successful on 2 of the 4 ibex species over there. You know, we flew into Madrid, went 5 hours south down to the Mediterranean and hunted 2 different cities down there. We went for the Ronda ibex and the southeastern ibex and just got some remarkable footage. I mean, this is legit hunting. I mean, some of the hardest stuff I've ever done. So it was myself, Matt, and Adam all went over, and then we had a local camera guy that helped us as well. But the terrain was great, hard. And when I say hard, I mean hard. You know, Adam shot his southeastern ibex off of a cliff, and it fell 1,000 feet straight down. He stoned him on his feet, and this thing fell right off the edge of the cliff, and they wouldn't let him go get it. It took the local guys 6 hours to pull that ibex out. That's how.
Oh my goodness! Where did
that's insane.
So I remember seeing the Instagram photos of this thing, and it was did it make Boone and Crockett?
Yeah, so all 4 of the animals that we shot made gold medal, which is, we're not inch guys, never have been.
Right.
We're looking for the most mature, heavy mass type animals that we can find. So mine barely made gold medal on the Ronda side. Adam's was 5 inches bigger, cleared the hurdle, you know, far and away. But it's the outfitter that we hunted with over there, Corju Hunting. He prides himself on the maturity of the animals. It's not just the inches, right?
Mm.
So, and you know, when you hunt different species, you have to learn about that, you know, and
Yeah.
you see them through binoculars at 300 and 400 yards, and you're like, oh, that's a giant. And they're like, oh yeah, he's real long, but he has no mass. And then you're trying to count the rings and age them. You know, we were shooting ibex that were 8 to 12 years old.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to age all animals. I mean, it's, you know, it can still be tough to age white-tailed deer for most people, and they've been hunting all their life, you know. So learning that from across multiple different species, whether it be elk or mule deer, or, you know, ibex or whatever, yeah, it's tough. So
yeah, it is, but it's all part of the experience, right? It's, you know, a lot of people ask us, you know, why do you travel the world and do these things? And really, it's the overall journey, right? It's not about going and executing the hunt. Obviously, that's part of it, you know, but when we sit back and we sit around the campfire and tell lies like everyone else does, when we're reflecting on these trips, a lot of it is around the travel itself, not necessarily the hunts. You know, we were fortunate enough to go to New Zealand a few years back, and no one talks about the 440-yard shot I made on my tar off the ridge, right? What we talk about is being in line to get on the plane and the guy that backed up in front of me and my response to that guy cutting in line, right? That's what we talk about. We don't talk about, you know, like I said, killing the animal. That's not what it's all about. I mean, that's a small part of it. It's the overall experience.
Yeah, the banter, camaraderie, friendships.
Absolutely. The planning that goes into it. You know, when you're hunting internationally, there's a lot of work that goes in on the front end. You know, you've got to figure out the paperwork. You've got to figure out, you know, how to clear all the hurdles with passport control and things of that nature. And, you know,
what about getting the animal back?
That's a good question. I was going to ask, how do you get your trophy back?
So they'll do the raw prep, dip, what they call dip and pack, and export, call it 6 to 8 months after you leave the country. So they dry the hides out, salt them, and get them ready to clear USDA on this side. It's a fairly painless process. You know, when you go to Africa, everyone's like, well, it's got to be, you know, cost prohibitive to bring your animals back. It's about $200 to $250 per animal to get the raw prep done, air freight, paperwork, etc. So it's really not as bad as people think. And Spain's going to be the same.
Gotcha. So you've been to Africa, you've been to New Zealand, you've been to Spain. Where else have you hunted abroad?
We've done Canada, which I wouldn't necessarily call that abroad, but those are the main staples that we've done so far. You know, there's a lot of other areas that we still want to pursue. You know, we want to go back to Africa. We're actually scheduled to go there in April. That'll be our, I think it's 9th or 10th trip over there all time. We do want to go back to New Zealand. I'm getting hooked on more hunting in England with like roe deer and some of the big fallow that they have over there. You can also go after some chamois in the mountains over there as well, you know, in Austria and France, etc. So there's a lot that still yet to come. You know, we are focusing more on the North American side than we have historically, but there's going to be a good complement of international hunts as well.
Awesome. What would you say is like on your top bucket list right now, like that you haven't been able to do? It could be
Yukon
animal, a Yukon moose.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Have you done a lot of Alaskan hunts?
No, we've not. So, I mean, we've been very fortunate to travel the world and, you know, see a lot of great things. But in doing that, we've not focused on the sheep here or mule deer or, you know, I've hunted Colorado for 15 years, you know, throw a backpack on and grab some water and food and let's go to work, right? So we've done that. But as far as, you know, some of the higher end hunts, the caribou and things like that, those are still on the hit list for sure.
You ever gotten into bears?
We did black bears up in Canada a couple years ago, and that was an experience in and of itself. So it's a little intimidating. I'm not going to lie, being in a tree stand 20 yards from, you know, a 500-pound bear.
Yeah, that would, I would definitely be shaking there too. So
yeah, it was. So
and then you got guys like Josh Bomar who jumps out and spears them.
Yeah, I'm not that guy. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, me either. I would not do that.
Well, yeah, luckily for me, when we went up there, the first bear that I saw, I shot, and it turned out to be the biggest bear in camp that week. But I mean, I'll never forget. He was standing on the barrel. He flipped it over. I shot him quartering away 20 yards, and he turned, and I thought he was coming up the tree with us. I mean, we've got a little point of view camera that was pointed back at me, and you see me, I'm about to climb up the tree myself. You know, I was, oof, and he died 20 yards behind us. It was intimidating to say the least.
That's, yeah.
Do you predominantly do all your hunting with a bow, or do you mix in the rifle too? Or I know you talk a lot about bow hunting, so is that like pretty much your bread and butter, what you do?
Well, the show originally was primarily only bow, but now we've mixed in more guns as well. So I would say this season is going to be about 50-50. Candidly, the footage with a bow always turns out better than with a rifle. You know, even though we've got the nice cameras with the long lenses and things of that nature, just the way that the footage presents and how you can take the viewer on the journey with you with a bow is a lot easier than with a rifle. I enjoy the rifle side of it. You know, I've always enjoyed the precision of the archery side, right? The preparation, the time that it takes to get your equipment in order, the practice, etc. And now we're kind of taking that same theory over to the gun side, where it's, hey, we want to be proficient out to 1,000 yards. Doesn't mean I'm ever going to shoot an animal at 1,000 yards, but I want to be able to hit the target and, like I said, be proficient there. It just makes those 100-yard shots that much easier.
What rifles are y'all using?
We're doing the brand of custom rifle right now. We're with Fierce Firearms. We'll probably change that come the first of the year, make a little bit of a move there. But we're shooting a very popular round right now, which is a 28 Nosler. For those people that aren't familiar with that, it's essentially a 7 mag on steroids. You know, you've got a 160 grain bullet leaving the muzzle at 3,300 feet a second. It's very flat, it's very fast, and it hits hard.
So I'm guessing there's some recoil to this.
There's very little, believe it or not. You know,
you put a muzzle brake on, or
nope? Just we shoot suppressed here in the States, but when we went to Spain, we couldn't. So we just had to put the thread protectors back on. And I would tell you that, you know, my gun with 4 bullets in it weighs 7.5 pounds. So that's what I was toting around Spain. So it's fairly light, but the recoil is not bad. I mean, my gun's all carbon fiber. I did scope myself for the first time ever in Spain. Made a huge rookie mistake, but you know, that happens, I guess.
Yeah. For those of you guys that don't know what scoping is, it's whenever the recoil of the gun makes the butt of the gun slip off your shoulder and the scope nails you in the eye.
Oh yeah. And that's exactly what happened. We were, like I said, we were in Spain and we were down in the bottom of a valley, and the ibex that I was hunting was on the top of the ridge. So I'd had my bipod fully deployed. and I still couldn't get enough pitch to get up to get the animal in the sight picture. So we found an 8-inch tall rock, and I put the bipod on top of the rock. So when I shot, when the trigger finally broke, the buttstock actually went under my armpit. It just slid right underneath, and my head is what stopped that gun from going backwards. And I knew it instantly, right? You just feel that warm sensation, and then 2 seconds later, there's blood in my eyes, and I got all the guides and local guys laughing at me, and it makes for good footage, I'll tell you that.
I think it's bound to happen if you shoot long enough, hunt long enough. It's gonna happen.
Oh yeah. Luckily for me, it hit me like right in the middle. It didn't, get me there. So
yeah,
my eyebrows are still intact. My wife was happy about that.
Awesome. So y'all got. I mean, it sounds like you got away pretty injury free. Other than that, this season, or
yeah, absolutely. I mean, other than a couple blisters here and there, but that's natural when you're hiking in the mountains.
That comes with the territory.
It sure does. Absolutely.
Right.
Good deal. So yeah, we got ATA in like 2 weeks, man. Are you excited about going to ATA? Do you is this one of your favorite shows that you look forward to every year? Or?
Yeah, ATA is great. I mean, it's a great networking opportunity for people like us. It gives, the local retailers and local manufacturers the opportunity to, network with the archery shops around the country. Luckily, they're having it in Kentucky, where some of the mask mandates aren't as restrictive as they are in other states. So no, it's a great show for us. We've been attending for the last 8+ years, and it gives us the opportunity to meet and network with our partners and really talk through our strategy as we look forward and how we can better partner and represent the brands that we're working with.
When you go there, do you are you meeting like different outfitters for potential hunts and obviously you're picking up partnerships with different sponsorships and stuff like that, but do you ever find hunts there too? Or
There are some outfitters that are there, but for us, the primary focus is really around networking with our partners and talking about, how do we better collaborate going forward. We renew and execute a lot of the contracts that we have. So it's more for us on the manufacturer side as opposed to the outfitter side. We'll do Dallas Safari Club, Houston Safari Club. I'll send some people to SCI, more on the hunt side.
Gotcha. So obviously you're a believer in Revital Outdoors products, right?
I am. Absolutely.
So for everybody that doesn't know, we partnered with No Limits. I guess it was around August of last year, and we got Brian some product, and we're like, hey, if you like the product, we can move forward with a partnership. And so that's what we did. Brian said, hey, this is really helping me work out and different types of things. So
Absolutely.
I'd love to hear your experience with our product and kind of how it's helped you in Spain. I know that you put out a video on Instagram whenever I believe you were in Spain whenever you made that video, and I think you were talking about the CBD cream. So if you don't mind, would you just tell how it helps you, how you think it could help hunters alike, outdoor enthusiasts?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we've been using the product, like you said, since August, and really for us, the biggest key was, we were getting back in shape, we were getting on the treadmills, riding the bike, and then trying to lift as much as we could just to get some more muscle mass put on. Well, as we get older, right, your joints start to fail a little bit. You creak and crack when you get out of bed. And I was having a lot of trouble with my elbows. And when we had hooked up and we were talking about the products and what they could do, you hear a lot of things of, oh, it's a miracle and this will take your pain away and what have you. I don't subscribe to any of that stuff.
Yeah,
right. And
we don't. Yeah.
Yeah, and you had said, hey, it's good stuff. It'll take some of the pain away. It'll relieve the inflammation, what have you. So I started rubbing it into my elbows, and within 2 days, I got relief, right? Did the pain go away completely? No, but did it take the edge off? Absolutely. And I could feel it starting to remove some of that inflammation, right? I was also doing the soft gels at the same time. So I tried it for 2 weeks, and at the end of 2 weeks, I felt monumentally better. So I'm like, okay, is this a placebo? In what is it, right? So I went off of it for 3 weeks, and the pain came back. And now, every day when I get done lifting, I'm throwing it on my elbows. We're coupling that, like I said, with the soft gels. We've taken the gummies. Adam has a hard time sleeping, and he takes the melatonin every night. And he went from sleeping 2 to 3 hours a night to a solid 8 hours every night.
That's so awesome, man. We've heard so many good testimonials about, the cream too, and the everyday formula soft gels, but those melatonin soft gels have been kicking people's butts at night and just letting them finally have a good night's rest, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and the best story that I've got on, as far as the product is concerned is, Matt, one of our cameramen, his father was a roofer for 30 years and he was always working above his head and his shoulders were basically burnt out. And he was looking to potentially get his shoulders replaced, right? So they were at our house and we're having dinner and I had some of the CBD cream, sitting on the counter and he's like, "What is that?" And I said, "Well, why don't you just take it home with you and try it?" And 2 weeks later, I'm not going to say pain free, but the mobility that he has back in his shoulders and his arms, I mean, it's probably going to save him from shoulder replacement.
So yeah, I mean, like whenever you have inflammation build up in these joints, it severely can limit the mobility. Like we've
Hmm.
seen people who, were, I know you can't see me in the screen, but maybe you can only get your shoulder up this high. Like you start taking regularly, it's just reducing that inflammation in there, and it's causing you, it's enabling you to be able to get some of that mobility back in your joints.
There's no question, and that's exactly what we're seeing, specifically with him, right? I mean, he's over 60, and like I said, he'd been working, outside for 30 plus years, and just using the cream by itself has given him a ton of relief. And we've seen that ourselves. Like I said, with my elbows, etc. It's legit. It's the real deal. We're telling people about it all the time, and they're like, "Well, it's THC free," and I'm like, "Hey, that's great." We all work in the corporate world. We're all subject to testing, and having it be THC free for us is a key.
It's a big deal, man. Whenever we, we're standing up the brand, and that was very important to us that we exclusively carry THC products. I mean, you know, whether you're corporate world or blue collar world, it doesn't matter. I mean, just having that safety net or that comfort of I'm not going to fail a drug test and lose my job, and then still have that healthy alternative instead of the ibuprofen or the Aleve, which most of the time hasn't really worked for that many people anyway. So
Absolutely.
that's been huge.
Yeah, I think
That's
for
the
us,
number
it's
one thing we get question wise, or we go to a show and get talked about. Kyle and I went to a show this year on the fishing side in Shreveport, and we met a couple of individuals that were stationed there in Shreveport that were in the military, and then we also met an individual that was a pilot. And that's always the first question is, you've got to tell me, am I going to pass? Am I going to fail a drug test? Like they're very adamant about it, and I mean, we have to be worker friendly. We understand where that's coming from, and we're glad that we have a product that they can still use and they're not at risk of losing their careers that they've worked so hard for.
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up. We actually have some friends that work for the government, and they had taken some of the product and submitted it to their testing agency to make sure that they would be clear if they used it, and it came back 100%. It won't be a problem. So it's
Our
just
product?
yes, sir.
Oh, that's awesome.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's how serious they were about trying it and wanting to use it. Is you can submit products for review, and they submitted the cream for review and came back 100% clear, no problem.
Fantastic. So, just I don't want to get I don't want to nerd out too bad, but I would like just to take the opportunity. So we keep all the beneficial cannabinoids in the plant. It's broad spectrum, so you're keeping all your CBD, CBG, CBC, CBN, and there's about 110 different cannabinoids in there. We use a world-class testing center um, that tests for everything under the sun. Have all your cannabinoid breakdown, heavy metals, blah blah blah, but they use a chromatograph process that uses a light spectrum to remove out only the THC. It's wild how they do it. It's expensive to manufacture, but we felt like it was super important. A lot of the other products on the market is just a CBD isolate. So all they do is just extract out just the CBD compound. Now, while it doesn't have THC, in it, which is good. You won't fail a drug test. Just taking the CBD isolate is not going to give you that same type of inflammation relief or sleep that Adam's seeing, because all those other beneficial cannabinoids work together to create an entourage effect and work to promote homeostasis or balance within all your body's functions. And I know everybody feels it in their elbows and their shoulders and better sleep and stuff, but it's really doing way more than that you don't see, because it's actually reducing inflammation head to toe in all your organs. It's supporting healthy digestive process, healthy kidney functionings and liver functionings and all these different things, even your heart. It's reducing inflammation throughout your whole body and encouraging a healthy whatever process that is. So,
That's great to
Yep.
know. I didn't know that it was that complex, to be honest.
It's an amazing, it is an amazing plant oil. That's all it is. It's just a plant oil. But you can go to, obviously you can go to a gas station and pick up CBD. It's just about everywhere. The problem is it's probably going to be a CBD isolate, and so you're not going to really feel the effects. And then a lot of it is not made in the US, and it's diluted and just really not great products. So,
Yeah, and that was a big thing for me is the trust factor, right? Is what are you putting on your body? What are you putting in your body? Because to your point, there's a lot of products out there. You just don't know where they come from.
mhm.
And for
Yeah.
a lot of people, it's scary.
It is. Every ingredient that is sourced in our products is it's a very premium ingredient. We go all organic if we can. There's a couple things that are not, but it's is definitely premium ingredients and very well thought out with every ingredient that was applied to our products. So.
Good. Yeah, I mean, we can definitely see the benefit of it. That's for sure.
So, in your opinion, so we, obviously we're wanting to get this in front of our bow hunters and distributors. We feel like it belongs on every archery shop counter across the country, whether it be a salve stick or soft gel or something like that. I mean, would you agree with that? Like,
Absolutely. Yeah,
yeah,
I think you guys going to ATA and creating the awareness there is going to be a big push for you, right? Um, just having, to your point, by the register, something to check out and, call it, add to the cart. I think it's going to be a huge success. And, if you can get some brand ambassadors, if you will, behind the counter at those big archery shops talking about the benefits and, the relief that they've gotten. Because we go back to my elbows, right? When I was drawing my bow to practice, when I was having that pain, I'm not going to say excruciating, but there were times where I let the bow down because I was getting it to break, get it to roll over to get to the back wall. And it was too painful. So creating that awareness that, hey, there's a product out there on the market that can make your bow hunting or your archery experience better and easier, I think is going to be a huge win for you guys.
I don't know if I believe this or I guess I'm still a little skeptical because I haven't seen this with the product, but one of my buddies who struggled with target panic, he's a new bow hunter. He's come in, I think 2018 was his first year hunting. We got him set up. He hunts with us in Wisconsin. But he was saying that it's helped with target panic a little bit. So
Okay.
I don't know. That's
Well,
kind of crazy,
yeah.
but
For me, believe it or not, I get target panic with my archery equipment, not behind the rifle, but when I shoot a wrist release with just the finger, I get target panic. So I shoot a thumb release, which takes that away. Um, what I'll do is I'll go back to the wrist release and see if that target panic's gone away, and I'll report back to you guys to let you
sure.
know if I'm seeing the same thing.
Yeah, I haven't noticed that difference. I don't really know if I have target panic though. So I don't know.
Oh, I know I have it. There's no question. When I get that bow back with a wrist release, the first thing I want and the last thing I want is that arrow off the string. I mean, I want to find the target and let it fly, which is weird because then when I go to shoot a thumb release, I can sit and hold for 2 minutes and find that exact hair that I'm looking for. It's one of the weirdest things that I've experienced in the outdoor industry.
Yeah. So I shot a nice buck with my bow this year up in Wisconsin. And it was a crazy story for me. I'd hunted hard. They'd went into lockdown, so we hadn't seen a deer in like a shooter buck within like 72 hours, right? And there's just that magical day where they come out of lockdown and the bucks are just chasing does everywhere, right? And they were standing out in the field at 11 a.m. just you know. So anyway, I get to the stand and we had a 1 o'clock meeting, so I get down at 12:55, walk back to my truck so I could take this meeting. It's a partnership that we're working to form on the fishing side. Couldn't really miss the meeting. Got down, and then I saw on my spy point camera that my target buck had come right underneath my tree stand at 15 yards while I was away in
In
the
the
meeting
truck?
in my truck. And I'd
Oh
hunted hard
man.
all week, and I'm like, you've got to be kidding me, man. This felt like crying. I was like, this is crazy.
Missed by 5 minutes, really?
That's divine. It was like 15 minutes, but that's like divine odds. I'm like, this is nuts. So I get back in the I decide I get back to the tree stand, and I just still couldn't believe it. And about 5, maybe 10 minutes goes by, and I see some movement in a thicket about 80 yards in front of me, a little doe. So I'm sitting there watching her through the binoculars, and then all of a sudden I see antlers kind of moving through, and and I'm like, oh, that's them. All they've done is she slipped out and was coming down to the alfalfa, and then he ran her back up and hemmed her up in that thicket. So then the weight was on, and I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen. Hopefully she comes back down to the alfalfa field because he'll follow, obviously. So yeah, there's about 4 hours left before dark. And I'm like, all right, well, we're just going to sit here. So I had all this time to like sit here and think about the scenarios coming through my head. Well, then 2 little bucks come off the top of the mountain, and he didn't like that. So he immediately jumped up, faced them, got in defense mode. And then he wound up flushing her out, and she came straight down to the tree stand, and he was right behind her. And I got like a 20-yard shot. But, I was just like visualizing that for the last 2 hours sitting there, I'm just visualizing that arrow going right through his heart. I couldn't even I don't even really remember drawing the bow back, getting steady or anything. It just happened so fluidly. It was a perfect heart shot. But I guess, yeah, it almost seemed like I just shot prematurely, but it was a perfect shot. Right. Just almost more instinctual. I don't know. I mean, definitely, I guess, a little bit of target panic with that, because it's not like I was conscious, like steady aim. No, I just drew back, put it on his heart, and let it rip. So it just happened to work out. Yeah. Yes.
Well, but that's why we practice, right? It's more muscle memory at that point in time than it is that conscious thought of, hey, I'm going to pick this one hair out. I did the very similar thing on my bear. I got the bow back and I let it fly because it was that pin was buried right where I wanted it to be.
Yeah.
And I wasn't at full draw for more than 2 seconds.
That same. Yeah. It was just a big blur. But then
when it works out, it's great,
Yeah, it worked out. I'd missed one earlier in the season. I'd shot right under it. So, this one I'm just like, it meant a little more. So,
well, and what's funny about that is there's times where when it takes a long time to develop, it's easier to execute the shot as opposed to when you get surprised, right? Then you get rushed and things get a little sideways. Like you said, you had 4 hours to sit there and think about the scenarios.
So I was thinking about this. Had I not had that phone call and he had just come in and surprised me, would I have made the same good shot?
You shot over him this time.
Or who knows? Who knows? Stuff works out like it's supposed to do, though.
There's no doubt.
So
that was a crazy meeting. I remember I was actually in on that meeting, and I remember him being very talkative. We're very excited. We want to form this partnership. And about 10 minutes into the meeting, he just like, yeah, sounds good. Just real quiet. And I'm like, did something go wrong? Was there something that was talked about he didn't agree with? What happened? And not 3 seconds after we get off the phone call, he sends me a picture of that buck. He's like, are you kidding me? And I was just like, oh, no. So
that's stuff you can't make up,
No, it was crazy, but awesome experience, man. It makes the grind all worth it after that. Absolutely. But like you said, I mean, we had a blast at the hunting camp. Like all the guys up there, great guys, or else, we wouldn't be up there with taking time away from the family to go be with those people. Like, so it's all about the experience for sure.
There's no doubt.
So,
yeah. So, well, Brian, can you tell us a little bit more about your new season? You don't have to go too in depth, but like when does it air? What's some exciting action that viewers can expect to see this year? What are you excited about? Like what's happening with this new season coming up?
Yeah, so we've actually got a lot of new things rolling out this year. We've been on pursuit for the 7 prior seasons, primarily been, call it a first and second quarter show. We were going to move to third and fourth with pursuit, but then the opportunity came up for us to move to Sportsman's Channel. So starting actually June 27th on Friday night at 7:30 p.m., we're going to kick off on Sportsman for 52 weeks. So we've got that Friday night prime anchor, and then we'll have 2 re-airs during the week as well. So it's a big move for us, not only just for No Limits Hunting, but we're we've moved production companies as well. We've obviously brought on some new partners like you guys, and we see this as a big step forward for us. We had a lot of success on Pursuit. Our ratings were great, but we feel that moving over to Sportsman is just going to build the brand even further, increase our exposure in the marketplace, and just drive up those views that we're looking for. So, I mean, we've got a lot of exciting things in store. We'll have some Africa footage in there. We'll have some elk footage. Obviously, Spain's going to be highlighted, a lot of whitetail hunts as well. So we've got a lot of footage still to lay down. Obviously, like I said, we're going to go to Africa in April. Hopefully with COVID, that all comes together. But, our plans right now, if we can execute that trip between the group that we're taking, we'll probably put 30 or more animals on the ground.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Wow.
So it's going to be pretty exciting. I mean, we've got Cape buffalo lined up, sable lined up, and a number of other, bigger animals that we've had success on in the past, but we're going to capture some really good footage in addition to what we've already got. Adam actually shot a buffalo this year as well, which is a pretty interesting story. Everyone talks about or hears about Cape buffalo charging you. We were actually charged by a herd of buffalo. So
oh my gosh.
Bison. Oh yeah. I wish we had better footage of it, but I don't get up a tree very well with a camera. So the camera stayed at the base of the tree while I ran up the tree.
Yeah, I can't blame you on that one.
No, he had shot the animal and the herd just would not go away. They got that bloodlust in them and they just kept coming back, and we'd push them off and they'd come back. We'd push them off, they'd come back. And we finally thought we'd pushed them for good, and we're going in to do the recovery and all the footage, what have you. And you just hear the thunder coming, and a whole herd of about 50 of them were coming in hot. So you've got myself, Adam, Matt, and Butch, the head guy at Squaw, and we were up in trees, and it was pretty comical. I wish there was a fifth person to film this just to see the scramble of equipment going everywhere.
That's crazy. That's an intense story.
Yeah, we've been charged before. We got charged by a male lion in Africa in season 1. When my wife was doing Cape buffalo with her bow a couple years ago, we had Cape buffalo running all around us at under 20 yards. I mean, we've been in some pretty intense situations.
A male lion?
Yes, sir.
Like, how'd you get away from that?
Luckily, the PH is shot straight. And
okay, gotcha.
It's a long story, but I'll tell you briefly, just in the spirit of time. But we flew over to the Kalahari Desert. My wife had taken it with her bow, so she belly crawled for 3 hours to get within range of shooting this male lion. She got within range, got to her knees, drew her bow, stood up, and slid into a little cut and got a shot at him at about 30 yards. Cat lopes off. You can see the blood coming out. Great shot, what have you. So we go, get in the shade tree, hang out for about an hour, have a little lunch, celebrate. Okay, now let's go in and recover him. We get back up to him, and he's still alive. So we put an insurance shot in him, back out, again for about an hour in the shade tree. Okay, now he's really dead this time. Well, we're going back in, and we have 2 professional hunters, myself, another cameraman, skinners and trackers. I mean, we've got a whole party of people going in there. And the idea in this is that you have the group of people on one side, and then you have the individual professional hunter on the other, and that if the lion does get up, he's going to go after the weak link. He's going to go after that individual, not the group. Well, like I said, we're in the Kalahari Desert. There's not a whole lot of sticks there. We got to 20 yards, and that PH that was by himself stepped on a little stick or a little branch, and it broke. And that lion that we thought was dead, eyes popped open and was on top of us in under 2 seconds.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so the first shot rang out at under 5 yards, hit him through the mouth, which is obviously not a fatal shot. The other gun actually jammed, so that shot didn't go off. And the cat pirouetted around the end of that one guy, and he dropped, and we're like, oh, thank you, it's over, right? Cat got back up, and he shot him 2 feet off the end of the barrel, right between the eyes.
That's intense, man.
Yeah.
That's intense.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
What's funny is when you watch the footage, you hear me go, well, that just got real. And that's the name of the episode.
That just got real.
Oh, it did. Talk about blood curdling when you just hear that roar of him coming at you. And you've got this cat was 550 pounds and he covered that 20 yards in 2 seconds. I mean, it was like 2 strides and he was on top of us.
That's crazy. You got to
Yeah.
act so fast.
Oh yeah, it wasn't. Well, and the funny part about it is the professional hunters, they prepare you for that. They just say, "Hey, whatever you do, don't run." I'm like, "What do you mean don't run? This thing's coming at us." And really what they want is they want to try to control the situation as much as possible so that they can account for where you are. So if shots start ringing out, they don't inadvertently basically shoot you. And
Yeah.
what's interesting in that is when you watch the raw footage and you really slow it down, the guy that has been, turning around this cat, you see him look to the horizon when he has this male lion at his feet to make sure that if he pulls the trigger, the backdrop is clear and there's nobody there. So for these guys to have the wherewithal at that point in time to look at the horizon and make sure that they're accounting for everyone in the hunting party, not just worrying about themselves, is why these guys are truly professional hunters.
So these are the local guides there.
Yes, these are the guys in Africa that we hunt with.
And I guess, yeah, they must go through a lot of training to be that aware and be that sufficient.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, to be a professional hunter in South Africa, it's a 2-year deal. I mean, you have to do an apprenticeship. You have to have so many hours in the field. You have to be able to identify animals, et cetera. It's not just saying, "Hey, I want to start an outfitting business and I'm a professional." It's a legit course.
I did not know that.
Absolutely.
Well, that's comforting, I guess.
Yeah, it's not a fly-by-night thing, right? You just don't stand up your operation overnight.
Gotcha. That's awesome.
That sure takes the edge off the adrenaline to a running a bass boat. I have to say that would be a little bit more tricky of a situation.
Yeah, I mean, just to have the precision that they do, I've seen some remarkable things with these guys, and that's why we put our lives in their hands, right? We trust that if something like that does go sideways, that they're going to be there to support us, and that means a lot to us, right? It helps calm your mind when you have a job to do, that you know that you've got the proper backup and they're going to be there to support you.
Especially when you got a 3-year-old at home.
There's no doubt.
Yeah, that amplifies it a little bit.
Yeah, to say the least.
Yeah. So awesome,
that's
man.
Crazy. So, well, Brian, if you would give us one last message to any outdoor enthusiast, either a hunting or fishing enthusiast that would watch this, about Revital, just any final thoughts from Brian Spicer, the host of No Limits Hunting. What do you have to say?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, one, we appreciate the partnership with you guys. I know we're just getting started in the first year. We expect big things to come. The product has performed really well for us. We're big believers in it, which in turn makes it very easy for us to promote and advertise and do those things that come off as genuine as opposed to forced. When you truly believe in a product, it makes our job easy, and it really matters to us. I guess the big message to the hunting community and outdoor enthusiasts is, we're getting into early January. That is the show season, whether it's the Archery Trade Association show, Dallas Safari Club, Houston Safari Club, the turkey shows, SCI, what have you. Get out and go to those shows if you're in the local area, or if you want to make a little vacation of it. It matters, and try to book some hunts as well. There's outfitters all around the world that are struggling to hold on to their businesses right now because obviously COVID has put a little hurdle in their way. So if you can get on the plane, if you can afford to get out of the country and support some of these outfitters, it'll help them survive the next, call it 12 to 24 months, because they've been on significant hard times, and they definitely need our help. And, for those guys in the archery world, when we see you guys at ATA, get out and support your local shops. Big box is great, but it's these local guys that really make the world go round for us.
Awesome. Great message, man.
Yeah. Amen to that. Amen to that. So, well, Brian, it's been our honor to have you on our podcast. We hope to have you on again throughout the year. We're very, very excited to see you at ATA. I know you're going to spend some time in the booth, and it's been a great opportunity to get you on our podcast, and we hope to do it again sometime. And we're proud to be partners with you, and we just appreciate everything you've done for Revital Outdoors and the outdoor industry as well.
Thanks, guys. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, and go bag a big one in your next hunt, man. So,
I'll send you all the pictures here pretty soon.
Thank you.
All right.
We look
Thank you,
forward
Brian.
to it.
Take care, guys.
All right, buddy.
Well, that's going to end this podcast. Appreciate everyone tuning in to see Brian Spicer with No Limits Hunting. Be sure, if you like this content, you want to see more of our podcasts and other videos that we are uploading, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Go ahead and give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Give a comment. You can also check out No Limits Hunting on Instagram and Facebook. Shoot them a message. You got any questions about some of their previous hunts or hunts coming up, or just overall questions about hunting in the outdoors, maybe safaris or here in the United States, he'll be happy to get back with you. He's full of a wealth of knowledge. So from all of us at Revital Outdoors, thank you so much for tuning into this podcast. Be sure to follow us on social media, Facebook, Instagram. We also have a TikTok account, and we're looking forward to more podcasts like these in the future. So for now, I'm Theron Asbury. Thank you again. God bless. Be safe out in the outdoors, and we'll talk to you soon, guys.